Some dual ownership. Dual ownership is fine.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Let the record reflect Commissioners Johnson, Figueroa, McLean Hill, and Goldsmith are present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you.
We do have a comment card on 1G and 1F and 1G.
1F and 1G.
Yes.
So I will move consent agenda items 1A, B, C, D. Did you? Was there a comment on E?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll move item 1E as well. Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank you.
Okay, we have Michael Novick on 1F. Relative to a donation of cognitive interview skills training valued at $30,000.
Yeah, once again, you have more than $50,000 this week being donated to the LAPD. This is one for $30,000 again from the Los Angeles Police Foundation. People have cited to you week after week that there's a conflict of interest in having a board president who's involved with one of the funders for the Police Foundation as a way to launder money, additional money to the LAPD. I think it's outrageous that you have not responded to any request from the public to audit that money and to advise the people giving thousands of dollars every week to the Los Angeles Police Department that they're already spending more than half of the city's budget and that the money should be spent on much more beneficial uses to serve the community. This particular one is for the benefit of the Force Investigation Division. And since you never really investigate the use of force by the LAPD and you alibi them for the use of force over and over again, I find it a particular waste of money from the so-called cognitive interview skills training. When everybody knows that the police commission, the police department, and the prosecution of the city, of the county, only alibi police officers who use force against people in this city. So I urge you to vote no on this and send the Police Foundation to spend their money getting people to avoid the police department and the kinds of harm they can cause.
Thank you for your comment. I will move item 1F. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And Mr. Novick for 1G, donation of a research study valued at $10,000.
Yeah, I don't think you need further research into the use of force. You have something called the Force Science Institute for the benefit of the Use of Force Review Division. There's no mystery about the use of force by the LAPD. The LAPD uses force to disrupt and destroy and harass black and brown people in this city. They use force to enforce the gentrification of Los Angeles and driving poor people out of the city. They use force to uphold a system of white supremacy and exploitation and capitalism. And so you don't need this $10,000 grant to do any research further into the question of the use of force by the LAPD. It's very, very clear that the LAPD is licensed to use force for those purposes. It's designed to uphold a system that suppresses the have-nots for the benefit of the haves, and most of the haves are the people represented on this police commission. And so, once again, I would urge you to audit up the amount of money that you collect week after week. Another, as I say, more than $50,000 this week alone. Over the course of a year, that's millions of dollars that are being donated to the police department for these specious purposes that only serve to cover the fact that the LAPD is involved in, they have a license to kill. And you uphold that license week after week with your decisions and your actions.
Thank you for your comment. I will move item 1G. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And please let the record reflect Commissioner Soberoff is now present. We're now on regular agenda items. We have a comment card on 2B and 2D.
I'd like to, let's start with 2A. We have the department's verbal report and discussion regarding the Cops for Kids program. Welcome.
Good morning, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Commander Ruby Flores from the Community Policing and Policy Group. I'm honored today to sit with some friends and to talk to you about a creative partnership that we've developed with our Community Relationship Division regarding a program called Cops and Kids. So with me today to present and give you a little bit of history about the program and how the LAPD and the Community Relationship Division is working together so that we can target and create common ground with our youth. Today I have Carrie Doggett, our Director of Program, with me. Also Gregorio Medina and Warren Jackson, who you may recognize as a former police commissioner as well. Okay, go ahead.
Started? All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having us here today. As Commander Flores mentioned, I'm Gregorio Medina, and I'm with Constitutional Rights Foundation. And for over 50 years, we've been based in Los Angeles, developing materials and programs and activities that teachers can implement in their classroom that inform and educate young people about the rights and responsibilities and their potential to address policy-related issues in their community. We have several programs, but the program we're here to speak about today is the Cops and Kids program, which we developed to establish, first and foremost, positive lines of communication between young people and the officers that patrol their communities. We think it's really important. Many young people, the only exposure they have to law enforcement is either through television, social media, and maybe law enforcement situations. This is an opportunity for them to interact in a positive learning experience where students become educated about the appropriate roles, scope, and limits of police authority in their community. The program has 3 elements. Featuring the police patrol simulation activity, which I'll go into more detail in subsequent slides. Classroom lessons, because this is really what CRF does really well, that educates young people about the history of law enforcement and, once again, their rights and responsibilities as citizens to provide guidance and oversight to address public safety issues in their community. And that's really where we funnel them to this common ground where young people can identify public safety issues that they think are really important and include not only law enforcement, but other local government agencies and community stakeholders into plans to actually address these public safety issues. The police patrol simulation is a featured activity of the Cops and Kids program. And in this activity, students assume the role of citizens making routine calls for police assistance, such as a noise complaint, but they also assume the role of the officers responsible for handling and trying to diffuse and de-escalate these situations. Right by their side, we have officers coaching them through each step of the process. Officers can freeze the activity if they feel that the students are either asserting too much authority or maybe even being too timid and putting other people's lives at risk. And this is a way we feel students sort of gain a grasp about the complexities of law enforcement. And it's also an opportunity for officers to find out what the students' perceptions and attitudes are about law enforcement, what their understanding is. After the role plays, they engage in a shared discussion where the students reflect on what they learned about police work, some of the things that make them feel unsafe in their community, and finally, some ideas on how they can include law enforcement in some project to address a public safety issue that they think is important to address. We've also added a parent component because parents that actually saw this activity said, I think I would like to participate. So we've adapted this lesson to also be done with adults, which is a really interesting dynamic because parents are coming in from both ways. They want their students, their young people, their children to be law-abiding, but at the same time, they don't want their children to be subject to any sort of unfair harassment. So that's the scope of the program. At this point, I think I'm going to pass it over to Commander Flores to speak about the impact with the LAPD.
So, as you can imagine, there's a huge benefit for the officers and, of course, for the students that are involved. I think the aha moment is when the officers come away with a better feeling and understanding about, wow, I didn't know that that's how kids viewed us. I didn't know that those issues were important to youth these days. They're able to talk to kids about bullying, drugs, alcohol abuse, gang reduction. I mean, everything that these kids are facing, they're able to talk to the officers about. So these officers have an opportunity to serve as mentors and role models, and I think that this is it creates a learning opportunity for our officers to be able to view things through our youth's eyes. It gives them an opportunity to reinforce how critical building trust and understanding is when working with a variety of diverse communities as well. So for the department, the huge benefit of this and why I think it's so important that we continue to grow with these events that we've had at the Police Academy with hundreds of youth from all around all of our schools throughout Los Angeles. This community will continue to grow just because of the positive impact that we've had. In the later slides, you'll actually see some survey results from the officers as well as from the students. But it's a neat way for the kids to be able to partner with officers and talk about community programs, problems that they can solve together. And I think for our department, this is a great way for us to see what's impacting our youth and to build trust with the next generation of our Angelinos. So this invests in our city's collective future by ensuring that our officers and youth gain a better understanding of why community policing concepts can create positive results.
So I'm Carrie Doggett, and thank you for the opportunity to share about this program. I'm going to share a little bit of data with you. The data I'm sharing came from a February conference. It represents about 300 plus middle school students from 6 different schools throughout the city and about 30 officers. But I can tell you that the data I'm sharing today really is data that happens time and time again every time we do the program. So this is really representative of all kids every time we do it. First, in the first graphic there, it's important to note that we pre and post test both the students and the officers and parents when we do the program. At the beginning, students come in with few positive experiences with police officers. At the end, if you can look at the graph below that, how do you feel about police officers at the beginning? You can see that the students are pretty all over the board with it. And that's not unusual for this age group. This program's targeted at middle school students for a reason. This is when they develop their attitudes that can be lifelong about authority. You can see the red shows the post-test, and you can see that the students' attitudes dramatically change. To the right of that, a graphic showing officers pre- and post-test. When asked, how do you think young people feel about you as a police officer? The officers assume that the students are negative or at best neutral, but they leave understanding that these kids really do want to give them a chance. What do students learn? Well, they learn to re-examine their own judgments and assumptions about police officers, their judgments and assumptions about their peer groups, and also about themselves and the decisions that they make. They also learn a lot about the scope and limits of police authority. They learn about Miranda. They learn about cops, when they use their guns and when they don't, what a proper arrest is and what proper use of force is. And importantly, they learn that there are ramifications when a cop doesn't act appropriately. Or that they can at least take the steps as such. They also learn about the human element, that there's a person behind the badge. They have families, they have hopes, they have fears. Officers, when officers start the program, we pre-test them, and then again we post-test at the end. Officers who have never done this program come in a little less positive about students, about youth, than those officers who have done the program, which I think is important. When officers are finished, they come away with a completely different attitude about young people this age, hugely important, just like the students, just like the parents. That dramatic shift, because they've had an opportunity in a safe environment to really communicate about the things that bother them, the things that they're afraid of, and the things that they hope for the future. 100% of the officers who participate think that this is a valuable experience. Additional responses that we pulled from these surveys, both the students and the officers, a couple of things I just wanted to point out. One is the students talk a lot about that everything that they see on TV about cops and citizens is just simply not necessarily true. Hooray. They also, in Los Angeles anyway, are really struggling with the difference between LAPD and ICE. And they also are very grateful for officers taking the time to understand them. Those are their words. Officers, I mainly want to direct you to the last two comments because I think they are really important. The officers say that the lack of understanding young people have about how law enforcement works and police procedures can lead to confusion. And secondly, they say that that confusion can lead to dangerous situations, and the officers themselves feel that perhaps they should adjust a bit to have a little more flexibility with students, young people this age. To me, that speaks to the importance of this program in increasing the safety of not only our kids and our communities, but also of officers. I'm going to turn it over to Warren to wrap it up.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Happy to bat cleanup with respect to the Cops and Kids program. Whatever theory of community policing you espouse, this program hits the mark, and it's a win-win. The key attributes and components, and basically I'm summarizing what you've heard here today. It opens lines of communication, and it's a first step in building mutual understanding of both officers and youth. It seems to me, having sat where you sit, that you need to build up a reservoir of goodwill and a reservoir of good work, because notwithstanding training and best of intents, there will be challenges which test the community's faith and test our processes. So this is the first step in trying to build that mutual understanding and hopefully create that reservoir of goodwill. Paves the way for students to be proactive in addressing issues of safety in their own schools and communities. They get to sort of understand what it is to be a police officer. And it offers a way to basically to engage youth and parents in something that's positive, fun, and educational. Frankly, I want to thank this organization has been supportive of CRF. Over the years, we have honored former Commission President Caruso, in a former life, President Soboroff. The chief has come to some our events, so I can't thank you enough for your volunteer service and what you've done on behalf of CRF. So hopefully, as we look out into the future, we'll continue to have this relationship. The person who's responsible for this program, as well as many others, Carrie Doggett, she's the straw that stirs the drink. So if you've got any questions, contact her, and her information is up there on the screen.
Can you give us a little bit of the history of the Constitutional Rights Foundation in Los Angeles?
Sure. CRF has been around for over 50 years, going on, I think, 56 years. And our bent is civic education, and we are absolutely nonpartisan, nonprofit. Our take is that we put good materials in the hands of teachers and students, K-12, public schools mainly, to educate them about their rights and responsibilities as citizens, to educate them about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And we do this in a way where we're not afraid to handle controversial issues, because we think that if kids have the facts and if kids can look at different perspectives of an issue, they can come to their own decisions. So that's really what we do.
Okay.
We want them to be engaged. We want them to participate in the betterment of their communities. And so we've got programs from mock trial to civic action project, where kids basically take on projects, look around their communities, what needs to be improved, whether it's we need to have a stoplight here, or whether or not there's a park that needs to be cleaned up. They basically, we encourage them, we give them tools to basically get active, not just to look at it and to complain about it, but to embrace it and to make improvements. And
Be
so,
proactive in a positive
So
way.
I'd like to do
Solve
just
problems.
a little quick role play here, and if you pull this sheet, Commissioner Jackson, I'd like you to be the officers pre, and Commander, I'd like you to be the officers post. Would you please explain the words that the officers before the program come to mind when they think about young people? Do you have the slide?
I
You
have
do
it
now.
now.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, well, when you think about young people, I'm pre.
You're pre.
Well, the words are there: impressionable,
Yeah.
stubborn, entitled, disrespectful, sort of trust issues, obnoxious, immature, know-it-all, lazy. That sort of sounds like what my parents said about me when I was in junior high school. But
Commander, after the program, tell me what the officers said about the young people that they were with.
They learned that these kids are very inquisitive and they want to learn. They're open-minded.
Use their words.
They're enthusiastic. They're very impressive. They want to learn. They're willing to learn new concepts, and they can be positively influenced, inquisitive, and they're very responsive, and they just want to be treated fairly and with respect. And they're curious about us as police officers, and they do have a lot of misconceptions about us.
Okay, so let's go over to this. Let's go over to the students. Which one of you wants to be the post? Well, it's what the students learned about themselves and what they learned about the police. Go ahead.
One thing you learned about yourself, they want to stop judging, prejudging officers. They respect the police more. They need more new friends. Capable to do more than we think. I think this is really that they are important to cops. I think that's really important for the students to find out. I don't think they go in thinking that that's a priority, but then as a result of this experience, they get the impression that, wow, I really do matter to the officers, my safety, my well-being.
And what were things that the students said that they learned about officers during the program?
The handcuffs are heavy. Not as mean as I thought. And I think,
It's not your turn anymore.
oh, I'm sorry.
When the mic moves, it's my turn. That they're not as mean as they thought that they were. Again, the news doesn't show reality. I learned about Miranda. Several students said that. They have families, they smile, they can be funny, they're cooler than I thought. They have to have evidence. They are different from ICE. I can call them to report. They don't use their guns like I thought. They use a lot of procedures to solve problems. Handcuffs are heavy. They work long hours. They try to calm people down. They try to do the right thing. Sometimes they feel fear. They can't show fear.
So these are the words of the students. And my last question is, what is the follow-up? Okay, in other words, you have this important transformative day. What is the follow-up from the officer's perspective, whose pre-thoughts were pretty I don't know. Skeptical. Yeah. And what's the follow-up with the officers? What's the follow-up with the students?
Do you want to answer that? Okay, so from the officer's point of view, I think at the very beginning of the day when we start, we ask the students and the officers to be open-minded and take the opportunity to learn from each other. And by the end of the day, both sides have learned that they can both impact each other. So the officers that are chosen to participate in this activity come from all over the city. So what the part two that Carrie and I were discussing that we want to do is these kids and the officers come together to present a program or a project. So we want to circle back in a few months and put together a panel of the officers that were a part of this so that they can talk about their projects and see what progress they've made. And again, for those officers to reconnect with these kids.
Okay, and from the students' perspective?
Yes, so this is the police patrol simulation, and this conference is the launch of a program. And the next piece of the program are some classroom lessons that help students understand issues of public safety, introduce them to public policy about public safety and how it works, and start to get them to think about identifying issues in their school or in their community that make them feel unsafe. And then the third part of the project or the program is the students actually do what we call a service learning project. And so they, once they've identified an issue, they start taking actions to try to do something about the issue. Projects that have happened in the past and that we expect to happen in the future go from as simple as students making a brochure about possible recreational activities in their community that kids could do after school and distributing that brochure school-wide or community-wide, to really bigger projects where students have organized an after-school and evening situation with their parents coming, the police coming, and really having a community dialogue and even doing some of the role plays from the cops and kids.
Thanks. Commissioners, questions? Chief, any comments? Commissioner McLean-Hill?
I have a couple questions. I also have some comments. First, I'm familiar with the Constitutional Rights Foundation, and well aware of the significant and important work that it does. And this is an interesting presentation. It comes at a perfect time for me. I'm falling short on hope these days, so this was nice to see. How many officers participated in the program?
The perfect ratio is 1 to 10, but it's flexible. So at the conference, we had about 300 kids and around 30 officers. The officers are trained right there on the spot, so it's a very short. All the officers have to do is just pretty much no police work, and we hope that they do, obviously. At a school site, if one classroom's doing it, 1 or 2 officers could just come to their local school and do the police patrol activity and then be on their way.
I see. Thank you. I particularly appreciate the candor and want to compliment Commander Flores for her embrace of this program. I appreciate the candor in the results that you've provided. My take on it may be just a bit, if not, well, let me not characterize anyone else. My take on the officer's pre-response is that it is dangerous. I mean, it should not be trivialized. This is not what my parents thought of me when I was a middle schooler. And even if it was, these impressions of young people held by those with extraordinary authority that may encounter them in very dangerous situations makes these impressions highly concerning.
Fair enough.
It is a tremendous testament to the program that with, a day's worth of exposure, what they learn is that these children are who we know them to be. Amazing, inquisitive young people that want to be treated fairly.
Mm-hmm. So, ma'am, can I just comment on that? That is something that we recognize. I think not all police officers have kids or interact with small kids, depending on the age of the officer. So this is an opportunity for them to be exposed to kids when normally they may not. We don't always pick the officers that are working in a capacity to work with kids. So we try to get a diverse group of officers that participate. One thing that we have been doing and will continue to do is we're educating our officers on how kids learn and how the brain develops. And as we know, the frontal lobe, their decision-making skills are not fully developed until late 20s. That's no, we have officers that young too. So those are things that we have to look at on both sides.
No, I sincerely appreciate that. I also want to, and thank you for stepping in. I also wanted to note the impressions of the young people, of officers, and to underscore the reality that you have 60% that report their impressions as negative or their past experience as negative. That again is alarming. and something that we have to face in a very forward manner and deal with. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because that's precisely what you're doing. I can't tell you how important I believe this work is and how significantly transformational it can be. It is hard, and there is not enough of it. And so I very much endorse and salute it, but do want to point out that with all that we say about, well, first, we have to do more. We have to do it on a grander scale. This represents or just confirms that both training and exposure to issues that are much more nuanced than what we've done in the past is critical if we are to actually produce the kind of resilience and the kind of empathy and the kind of judgment that we would hope to have in all of the officers that wear an LAPD uniform. And so I think that's really all I'm going to say about that today, but thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. If I may, I just would like to mention, as Warren stated, the straw that stirs the drink. I have a very big drink here, and I have several straws that help stir that drink. So I'd like to recognize Captain Al Neal, the commanding officer from Community Relationship Division, as well as Senior Lead Officer Javier Barragan and his partner, Senior Lead Officer Joe Ornelas. They've done a lot of work on this.
Now, I want to be clear. Have there been only 30 members of the LAPD that have done this? How many members of our
One class.
That
Yeah,
was
one
just
class.
that
So
was
how many
just in
people-
March.
How many people have done this overall? Do you know?
In the last 2 years, we've reached about 2,000 students, and I can tell you, like, Olympic Division does this every single year at Berindo Middle School, and they have for 15 or so years. So they know the program. They just go and do it every year. So that would be what we would love to see. That would be the end game. If we could be able to have officers in different divisions be able to just annually go into a middle school for a morning, get this done, and the kids will take it from there.
Yeah, if you can, to give you some sense of hope, if you could encourage the command staff, the officers to engage with us, we'd appreciate it.
Yep. Okay.
And just to add,
Chief?
don't need any encouragement on this side. Obviously, this is a great program. I want to thank CRF, particularly Commissioner Jackson, for his efforts in this and using his experience to reach out to us to make this happen. And Ruby, thank you very much. And we will ensure that this program and others like it, because this is not the only program that does this type of empathy building, is in every division. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, we do have 3 comment cards on.
I just have one
go ahead,
quick comment.
Commissioner.
So first of all, I want to thank you for the work you're doing in this program. It's obviously an excellent program. Commissioner McLean-Hill makes some very important points, and you look at the surveys of the pre and post comments from both our young people and the police officers, and it really highlights the importance of not only programs like this, but why we need to find ways throughout our daily interactions to create opportunities for officers and civilians to just interact and to get to know each other and to see each other as more than just a call for service when someone's experiencing a traumatic event. We can see we can be successful with not. It doesn't need to be, months and months of time people spending with each other. It can actually really be a relatively short encounter where you can have a meaningful change in how people view one another.
Absolutely.
By the way, I don't have any empirical information that would back this, but my hope is this type of program, others like it, could hopefully create a pipeline where those folks can become the LAPD or sheriff's officers of the future.
That's a deal.
So that's a residual benefit.
Great. Well, let's have the public comments.
Okay, we have Adolf Al-Zavahar, followed by Hamid Khan and Melina Abdullah.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. So the question is, should the police be educating kids? So my neighbor, the police officer, has read and reads books, articles, watches art movies, watches the news and documentaries. You know, when it's Black History Month, my neighbor points to MLK Jr., James Baldwin, Jackie Robinson, Toni Morrison, James Brown, and a whole bunch of great figures. When it's Latino Heritage, my neighbor points to Cesar Chavez, Los Tigres del Norte, and his or her abuelita and her lessons. My neighbor likes little mom and pop shops that sell hot dogs, coffee, tacos, soul food, and other things around the community. Women's Day is a huge one, you know, so Mother Jones, Beyonce, and these days, gender neutrality is a big thing for my neighbor, the police officer. Words like empathy, when it comes to religion, Jesus Christ, positive Judaism, the three kings that went to visit Jesus. However, there's something missing. My neighbor shot an unarmed person but seems not to be guilty according to our definition of civilization. He or she is of a different caste despite our history of democracy. George Washington, the flaggy flag, and all those things. That person is an anti-agent of happiness. To quote the poet Nazim Hikmet, you're terrifying. And in this misery here, I wouldn't say that it's all because of you, but I'd say that you played your part. My neighbor, the police officer, needs to think twice about things. And quite honestly, I think that my neighbor, the police officer, belongs to a strata of society wherein brutality is prized because my neighbor, the police officer, does not have a mind for the greater and higher things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hamid Khan, please.
Thank you for bringing us and grounding us in some of the reality. I mean, it's really unfortunate that how children can be used as a fodder to really whitewash and to just cleanse out some of the more deeper issues that we are looking at. I mean, and the point here was raised that the children in these presentations are presented with facts. I think the question is that what facts are the children being presented at? Well, the children presented with the facts that the LAPD is one of the most murderous police department in the country, and documented facts in 2011, 2012, 2015, 2016, and continues to murder people with impunity. Were children presented with facts that LAPD kills children, the same their age. We have parents amongst us today whose child was murdered, and this body is going to be deciding about that today. 14-year-olds being murdered by cops, 16-year-old murdered by cops. Were the facts presented that the LAPD has and this is a timeline, this is all factual as well, sexual assault of 14-year-old women, orgies with 16-year-old girls out there, you know, just taking them out for camping and all of that and engaging in extreme forms of sexual violence. I think that's where the facts and the reality needs to come in, that while we can sit there and feel really good about these things, but the reality is that looking at 3 things you learned about police, and I'm looking at that board and I made a comment that news doesn't show reality. Of course news doesn't show reality. News doesn't show that how the constitutional and human rights of our children are constantly being violated, how the constitutional and human rights of young people are constantly being violated, how they are deemed criminal before any contact is being made with them anyways. So yeah, the news doesn't show that reality. Then they say that they don't use guns like I thought. Of course.
Next speaker, please.
Melina Abdullah, please.
Morning.
So I'm kind of shocked because I always thought the Constitutional Rights Foundation was supposed to be a progressive organization, and it seems instead that you're going in and doing the PR work of the most murderous police force in the country. And you can shake your head if you want to, but shame on you. Shame on you. And let me say that when you said that the problem is about children misjudging police, I am the mother of 3 school-age black children. And the problem is police targeting my kids. You are putting my kids at greater risk, right? The facts are, and I want to echo some of what my friend and comrade Hamid Khan said, is that A.J. Weber was 16 years old when he was killed. That Jesse Romero was 14 years old when he was killed. Today we're here for Eric Rivera, who was only 20 years old when he was killed. The facts are that every major study says if you want to reduce violence exacted on communities by police, you reduce the number of those interactions. So I'm appalled that you would go in and have an exercise about how you can pull police into more interactions. I'm going to quote a Harvard University study. If we want to reduce the incidence of abusive police behavior towards African Americans, and in parentheses, and other civilians, one way to do so is to reduce the number of interactions between police and civilians. Another quote, every such encounter has the potential to escalate into violence with the possibility of fatal results. Are you teaching the children that? And as a mother, I want to know in advance when you're coming to my children's school so I can make sure that they opt out, because my children will not.
Okay, let's move on to item number 2B, please. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Get your computer, we're going.
All right. So.
Thank you. Item number 2B.
Thanks.
I got it. Hold on.
Okay, we're going to item number 2B, Department's Report. I don't know if any commissioners have comments or questions, but I think let's hear.
We do have one
let's
comment
hear
card, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry?
We do have one comment card.
Okay, one comment card. Let's hear a summary.
Okay. Department's report dated April 5th, 2018, relative to the response to Public Safety Committee relative to reported hate crimes and religious, ethnic, or racially motivated violence. Council file number 17-0256.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
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 Bear with me a minute here while I get my things up. The motion before you today is a request by the council to provide numbers and information related to hate crimes specific to religion.
Speak right into the microphone, okay?
And can you please identify yourself for the record, please?
Okay, I'm sorry. William Hayes, Commanding Officer, Robbery Homicide Division. This was a genesis as a result of a council motion to look at hate crimes specifically related to religion. It was probably a genesis of the 3 church fires that occurred early in January of this year. That individual was taken into custody and is currently awaiting trial. The individual's motivation appeared to be that he believed that the churches that he targeted, that their religious beliefs were in conflict with his. Based on that, there were 2 requests. One was to look at the crimes and see if there were any issues with it related to religion and give them a better idea of what the numbers were. And then the second part was there any grants that were available to provide to the religious institutions to improve their security. With respect to the numbers, there were 46 crimes where the motivation was for hate was religion. 37 of them were anti-Semitic, 6 were anti-Muslim, and 1 was anti-Muslim or anti-Islamic, and 1 was anti-Catholic. The vast majority of those crimes were vandalisms, with the number being 32. So in relations to assaults, there were 2 simple assaults. In looking at them, the 2 simple assaults, it's actually were individuals that were intoxicated and then went against that individual because it was a belief that they didn't believe in, and then assaulted the individual. There were 2 instances at schools related to this specifically. One is in Hollenbeck, and the second was in Central. Both were directed at individuals, teachers that were worked there, or principals, and the issues were anti-Semitic in nature. The individuals used graffiti, and when the individuals were confronted and taken into custody on those issues, it was kind of determined that those 2 youths had some socialization issues, and the efforts in doing the anti-Semitic actions and the graffitis was to gain attention and notoriety amongst their peers. In looking at that, we also looked at, there was one bomb threat that was against a Jewish daycare facility in West LA. The nexus of that and the genesis of that was actually a young man in Israel that was making telephonic bomb threats against a number of institutions throughout the country. The FBI identified and arrested him related to that incident. In taking a look at it, also there were 13 crimes that were at schools that were hate in nature. The majority of them were vandalism. There were only 1 or 2 in which individuals, and normally students on students, making statements against each other, and those were anti-Muslim in nature. That was primarily the overview of the religious related crimes. In looking at the other aspect that they asked related to grants, we searched the areas in the internet, and were unable to find a grant that would be specific to what they were asking to provide additional security for the schools. However, throughout the years, we have gone traditionally to the divisions, and the divisions have met with the religious leaders in the area and looked and provided additional issues regarding security, especially during the holidays, as if there's any belief that there would be concerns related to attacks at those institutions. So they have done that over the years, and as was the case with the this past week, it was Coptic Easter, and the Coptic Church, we made arrangements to have additional patrols related to those areas. I can give you an overview on the hate crimes that we looked at throughout the year, if you'd like, but that was the genesis of what this report was.
Do we have any comments or questions by commissioners? We do have one speaker card, correct? Yes. Okay. Let's hear the speaker card.
We have Michael Novick.
Mr. Novick?
Yeah, I think this is further evidence of the problem with policing in this society. You're stigmatizing and criminalizing young people who are following the lead of the president of this country. You're not looking at the social and economic and political factors that promote this kind of violence, and you're not examining yourselves. The LA Police Department is responsible for religious, ethnic, racially motivated violence over and over again in the city. It's been shown over and over again that the LAPD is the most murderous department in the country, and the targets of that violence are mostly people of color, black and brown. The LAPD is involved in filing suspicious activity reports that stigmatize and criminalize Muslims and other people of color in this society. And so you're trying to use the police as a mechanism to solve a problem that the police are part of. And you're sitting here as the so-called civilians who are supposed to oversee how the LAPD deals with these social problems that it's actually responsible for generating, and you're not fulfilling your responsibility. I was on the LA County Human Relations Commission Hate Crimes Task Force for a number of years. It's a voluntary I wasn't on the task force. I was on the group of people that met with them regularly, and they never dealt with the roots of the problem. The roots of the problem is that you're living in a society that's based on white supremacy, on land theft, on colonialism, and on genocide. And until you deal with that, all the rest of this is a dog and pony show.
Okay, may we have a motion for approval on item number 2B? All in favor? Aye. Okay, let's go to item number 2C. This was a request by Councilmember Englander. Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments? We've all read the report. Do we have any public comments?
We have none, sir.
Okay. We have a motion regarding
I'll move item 2C.
Okay. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's go to item number 2D, mid-fiscal year risk management and harm reduction. Maybe we'll just, let's hear a summary from the department, and then we'll see if we have any commissioner questions.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Welcome.
Chief, everyone. I'm Commander Jeff Burt. I'm the commanding officer of Risk Management Legal Affairs Group. I'm here with Captain Jennifer Thomas of Risk Management Division and John Doucette as well. You have in front of you a report, the Risk Management and Harm Reduction Status Report that encompasses briefings for employee-involved traffic collisions, workplace conflict, workplace injury, and use of force. I'd point out that the use of force report is done separately, not under this cover, but it's done by the Use of Force Review Division. Just a quick wave tops on the report that you all have in front of you. Employee-involved traffic collisions. We are trending down in traffic collisions, although we're consistent per the 100,000 miles we drive. The actual overall numbers are going down. If you look at 4-year average, mid-year of 2014-15, we had 482 employee-involved traffic collisions, and this year we're at about 334. That number will go up slightly because they're not all in yet, but nonetheless, we're still trending down. Of all of our employee-involved traffic collisions in the last mid-year, about 59% are preventable and 41% are non-preventable. It's trending up slightly.
If I may, I think, because we've all read the numbers,
okay.
I would personally just be more interested in the efforts just a general summary of the efforts we're doing to reduce
absolutely okay
in each of these categories.
Sure. Okay, so when it comes to employee-involved traffic collisions, the actions taken is a Below 100 campaign where over 9,000 officers have been trained in that. Risk Management Division's own Buckle Up campaign and Buckle Up with Beck campaign, dashboard stickers in over 800 cars, and drop-stop devices installed in 1,600 vehicles.
You know, they used to have stickers as you'd leave the station on the gate.
Right.
And I've noticed.
Well, I know several stations I've been to still have buckle up as you're walking out and arrive alive, but it's something we were just talking about last week. Go ahead.
Should be on every.
So the dashboard stickers that we have, we're going to enlarge them, and we're actually going to frame them and put it right beside the care room so that as officers check out their equipment, they will be seeing that. That's another reminder of the persistent, consistent message that we are giving to
also,
the officers.
as they drive out the gate.
And then as they drive out, they'll have another message.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
With regard to workplace conflict, we all know we have more employees now than ever, but fewer workplace investigations and claims and fewer lawsuits. To mitigate these risks, Jennifer Thomas has spearheaded the Pepperdine Conflict Resolution Course. We've sent nearly 400 supervisors and over 130 command staff. The Ombuds Office continues to be, had 206 outreach events in the last 6 months and reaching about 3,300 employees. Our standards-based assessment rating now is, the review process is almost done, but we're going to include review of risk management, our supervisors' ability to be risk managers, and then finally, I'm part, as the Department Risk Manager of the Harassment Discrimination Working Group with all the Department Risk Managers. When it comes to workplace injury, the actions we're taking, we're working very closely within the Executive Directive 18 by the mayor to manage risk. We're reporting annually to the mayor our efforts. Personnel Division just updated and published their illness injury prevention program. And then we have 178 supervisors trained so far on sick and IOD reporting processes. Our Jennifer Thomas and her staff lead mental wellness walks, and then we have wellness reminders and digital boards in 4 divisions. We're trying to expand that. And then finally, we just put 5 blood pressure machines in the divisions and 1 in this building. Going forward, we're going to continue to message every way we can. We're really happy about our seatbelt usage. We've increased seatbelt usage to 96%. We're going to continue to message that because that's a clear way to save officers' lives. We're going to continue to seek funding for the conflict resolution course. I've been to it myself. I think it's an extremely valuable tool to help our officers. We're going to continue to grow the experience and role of risk management coordinators and collaborate with Office of Operations on hazard removal, safety, security concerns, mold issues, rodent problems, all the things that they've been doing really well this year already. And then we're going to continue working closely with the city attorney, with my shop and Brian Witten's shop to ID the underlying issues and root problems that can be addressed through policy or procedure with regard to our uses of force lawsuits and our personnel lawsuits.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Public comments on this item?
We have Mr. Michael Novick.
So apparently most of your risk management and harm reduction strategizing has to do with the risks that the officers are to themselves and each other and the harm they're doing to each other. And what is your strategy for dealing with the risks that the officers present to the people of the city of Los Angeles and the harm they're doing to the people of the city of Los Angeles? And I would have one suggestion regarding the question of the vehicle safety that you were talking about. You should have a big sticker on the sign on your cars that say, when you jump out of the cars with your guns drawn, put the car in park.
We have no other cards, sir.
Okay. We have a motion on item number 2D, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Okay. We'll move to the report of the chief, and before we do that, Mr. Teefank, will you give thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Will you give an update regarding the our search?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the commission and the public. As you're aware, the application period closed March 23rd. There were 31 applications received. The commission is in the process of reviewing those applications and will determine those candidates who are deemed highly qualified to move forward in the process. Interviews will be scheduled in the future with an anticipated date still on track to give to the mayor on or about June 1st the list of the 3 highest ranked candidates in numerical order. Also, the community survey that was posted online through March 23rd, the Personnel Department has compiled the results, and they should be posted on the websites where the actual survey was, which was the personnel website, the department website, and the city website. So the results will be available, and it takes and calculates and gives an aggregate number of all the responses to the questions, along with a heat map showing where the responses were from the various zip codes within the city. And that hopefully will publish by the, posted by the end of today or at the latest tomorrow. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Teefank. Morning, Chief.
Morning, Commissioners. A couple of things to comment on, significant incidents. First, we had the 3rd annual Run to Remember, which is a athletic event, starts at the Grove, is a half marathon and a 10K. We had over 5,000 participants, largely from Los Angeles Police Department, the public, and the LA County Sheriffs, along with other allied agencies. Really good event, enjoyed it, and I think it was very successful. We had a traffic accident early this morning where a produce truck turned in front of a black and white vehicle containing 2 officers that were en route back to their divisions after working the MTA. Talked to both officers. They're in stable and good condition. Probably will be released today without any major injuries. Yesterday, we had an officer-involved shooting that occurred in Topanga Division. Uniformed officers became aware of a cold-plated stolen vehicle via a LoJack hit. The officers attempted to detain the vehicle and its driver when the driver exited the vehicle and fled on foot. Officers initiated a foot pursuit, and during the foot pursuit in an alley, the suspect turned, produced a .38 caliber revolver, and fired multiple rounds at the officers. The officers returned fire, killing the suspects. One of the officers sustained a gunshot wound to the upper left leg, and the other sustained scrapes and bruises from diving to the pavement as he had tried to avoid the suspect's gunfire. .38 caliber pistol was recovered from the scene with 6 expended rounds in its chamber. Body-worn video clearly shows the suspect pointing the weapon and firing at our officers. Very, very dynamic incident. I can't tell you how lucky we are that we didn't lose a police officer. The individual fired at them from very close range. Obviously they were able to return fire and eliminate the threat, but we were very lucky we didn't lose cops yesterday. General crime statistics. So the first quarter of 2018 was a good start for the year, very good start for the year. We're down 13% in homicides. That's 10 less homicides than last year at this time. We're down 19% in rapes, 6% in aggravated assaults, and we're up 2.5% in street robberies primarily. Total violent crime picture of a 4% reduction. We are down in every category of property crime. Total is 7.3%. Biggest decline is in motor vehicle theft, which we've really struggled with over the last few years. And this year we are at a 12.1% reduction over the prior year. Number of victims shot in the city is down 29%. If that trend continues, that will be almost 300 less people shot in the city of Los Angeles this year than in the prior year. So that's very, very significant. Violent crime arrests are up 6.6%, which is a really good thing because violent crime is down, shows a more effective resolution when somebody commits a violent crime. Calls for service, the number of radio calls we get, number of times that public contacts 911 are up 11%, which is a significant increase. To give you an idea what that means, so far we've had 150,000 calls for service this year, and that's about 15,000 more than we did last year. Guns recovered, we've recovered 1,123 guns as of the first quarter of this year. That obviously excludes gun buyback. That's a 10.6% increase over last year and a 23% increase over the 5-year average. Gang crime, we measure 11 categories of gang crime. Some of them are not the specific categories that we use for Part 1 crime because gang crime is so different. Every one of those 11 categories is down, with gang crime, homicide-related gang crime, down 14.6%. Things as shots fired into inhabited dwelling, down 61%. Criminal threats, which is a huge issue with gang presence in a neighborhood, down 31%, and extortion down 25%. Gang-related shootings, number of victims shot, and gang-related shootings down 44%. Officer-involved shootings in total, we've had, as of 4/9, we'd had 9 versus 14 last year. That's a 36% decrease in officer-involved shootings. Traffic collisions, we're about even for traffic collisions as compared to last year. Most significantly, though, we are down in fatalities. We're down almost 19% in fatalities. That's 56 as compared to 69 last year. And we're also down in major injury accidents, 13%. Driving under the influence, which is something that we were very concerned about because of drug legalization issues and other issues is down significantly, down 25% versus last year. So that's very positive news. And hit and runs, which we've struggled with over the last number of years, are down 13.5%. And fatal hit and runs are down 40%. So those are very good first quarter numbers. Motor vehicle versus pedestrians, as I've reported to you many times in the past, is something we concentrate on because of the lethality of it. They're down 12%. And our number of fatal motor vehicle versus pedestrian accidents are down 32.6%. That's 29 this year versus 43 last year. So those are significant decreases. Personnel status report. We're at over 10,000 Los Angeles police officers, almost 3,000 civilians, and 1,799 cadets. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any public comment cards on the chief's report?
Yes, sir. We have 7 comment cards.
Okay. Oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not a problem. I just thank you for that report, Chief Beck. I know that at this juncture, when we typically report about significant incidences that have occurred since our last meeting, we rarely report on matters like those depicted in a video that was posted by the mother of Eric Rivera. It depicts an 18-plus minute detention of 5 young men of color at the location where their family member was killed in an attempt to hold a vigil in his memory. I believe that it's appropriate to underscore that particular incident as one of significance, not because of the violence that it depicts, because to their credit, the officers, for the most part, appear to be acting in a very professional manner. However, it is the long-term and frequent detention of young men of color handcuffed up against walls that occurs all too often that is the underlying basis for much of the hostility, the outrage, and the mistrust that is directed at law enforcement. All of the incredible work done by this department through its community relationship division, its community safety partnerships, and the individual actions of countless numbers of members of this force go to waste as long as we continue to grapple with the all too often willingness in the name of public safety or some other greater good to turn a blind eye to the rights of young men, black and brown, often in communities that are poor, to assemble freely, to walk the streets, to be free of detention, to not be viewed, their very presence, as a potential threat. To its credit, I understand that the department initiated its own complaint against the officers, which will be investigated. I also am happy to report that our Inspector General has done the same and will be monitoring the investigation of that particular incident. It is regrettable that it involved the Rivera family. But again, what is most regrettable is that I fear it represents the very thing that we fail to discuss and fail to highlight as significant, and that we must begin to, in a far more robust and open way, tackle if we are to make good on our commitment to further increasing public trust. And I will just in closing note that there is a direct relationship between the results of the survey of those middle school kids and witnessing these kinds of actions and activities in their community on a regular basis. And while I said that I was short of hope, I want to encourage all of us to remain hopeful and vigilant, and to know that we can, in fact, continue to work through, address, and with more communication and resilience and truth, do better. Thank you.
So in response, obviously, the Los Angeles Police Department will look into the legality and propriety of the stop that you have brought up. I will tell you that community has seen an increase in gang and gun violence, and
So you're going to have a chance to speak during public comment. If you can't hold back, then we'll just go right to closed session now. Okay, I think that, so do you want to let the chief speak, or do you want to we'll just go to closed session? Go ahead.
Well, I do not speak because of your permission. I speak because whoever just spoke, I didn't see who it was. Can you point out the person? This
doesn't matter. Okay. Will you please you'll have plenty of time to talk during public comment. You'll have plenty of time to talk during other things. So please let's proceed. Chief?
So we have put additional resources into Wilmington because of gang violence, and we will look into the propriety of this stop. And I am understanding of what you say, but I am also responsible to keep people safe in neighborhoods from gang violence, and we are very effective at doing that.
What does that have to do with being harassed?
Okay, let's move on. Let's have the public comments, please.
And the first
We
three
have
public comments?
How many do we have? 7?
We have 9, sir.
9, okay.
The first 3, Adam Smith, Michael Novick, and Paula Miner.
Mr. Smith.
I've spoken a bit over the last few weeks about the narrative that you set, Chief Beck, in these reports every week, and how despite the fact that force investigations take the better part of a year to complete, you set this narrative that the media hears and reports on what happens when your officers kill residents. And as we saw with the video you released on Facebook after Azelle Ford's case came before the police commission, and after seeing Officer Medina in Boyle Heights murder 14-year-old Jesse Romero just 12 days after he had shot and killed someone else, and after we saw you, after your evaluation, allow the officers to go back to work immediately after executing Eric Rivera, it's crystal clear that you don't go to bat for the community. It's clear that your purpose as police chief is to stand up for police officers, regardless of their most horrific transgressions. The International Association of Chiefs of Police Oath of Honor says, "I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions." And it's abundantly clear that you don't take that oath at all seriously. With this clarity, and with all the love that I hold in my heart for this community. It actually pains me to say that you are not only the antithesis to what that oath you took purports to say, but that you are truly antithetical to humanity and common decency. I truly believe that you are a morally bankrupt person. And underneath the facade of the hypermasculine, gun-toting, powerful police chief, you are truly just a coward. You are a coward.
Michael Novick, please.
Mr. Novick?
I appreciate Mr. McLean-Hill's comments. I think that the chief, since he obviously recognizes the significance of the incident, is once again extremely remiss in his report and not including it in his report of significant incidents. I think that it reflects a much, much larger reality, however, which is that although he said in his report that gang violence is down and gang activity is down, somehow stops are up, harassment is up. The killings that take place are the tip of the iceberg of the kind of policing that the LAPD carries out, which is commonly called racial profiling. You have other names for it now, biased something or other, but the fact of the matter is that the more policing that you have, the more killings that you have, the more police that you've put on the streets over the course of the years. You say you're over 10,000. You no longer give us the figures. So I think that once again, the chief has demonstrated his complete inadequacy to the position he's in. He should have been removed a long time ago. I understand he's retiring, but it can't happen too soon.
Paula Miner.
Good morning.
Chief Beck, I believe that you did not consider the event that Commissioner McLean-Hill mentioned as a significant event because these events happen so frequently. These events not only happen in Wilmington with the family of Eric Rivera, they happen in my neighborhood. They recently happened with my son-in-law driving his children to school. Officer stopped him and he said, "What did I do?" He said, "You know." And he said, "No, I don't know." He looked in the car, said, "Oh, where are you going?" "Taking my kids to school." He said, "Okay, I thought you were someone else." You know how it goes. This happens on a daily, and when Commissioner McLean-Hill brings it up in this context, it's even more sad. As a mother, as a grandmother, it saddens me to know that our young men of color experience this daily. And it saddens me to know that you kind of brush off what Cynthia McLean-Hill said as being not important, not significant, that related to some kind of effort to control gangs. When you how do you identify a gang? A gang is walking up to a shrine, lighting a candle and putting flowers down. A gang is doing this in the daytime on a street in Wilmington. Do you ever ask, why are you here when you approach young people? You assume they're a gang no matter what they're doing, if they happen to be black and brown, and if you and your officers happen to decide that you want to detain them. So I stand here in support of Eric Rivera's family. I stand here against the continuance of the harassment of young black and brown people.
Next speaker, please.
Melina Abdullah, followed by Gina Viola and Helen Jones.
So before I address you all, I want to say to the young people, to Eric's brothers, and to his mom, I'm sorry. You didn't get an apology from them. I'm sorry. I can't imagine what it was like to be there to mourn your oldest son. And I spoke with you, but the calm that you exhibited in recording the incident, I don't know how you did that, because I was freaked out. I was thinking about what they had done to Eric and then thinking about your other children. And so I appreciate you for many reasons, for much of what you said, but also for surviving the incident. But I'm sorry that that happened. I'm appalled by you and you. This is a family, and I always come here and I say Steve Soboroff has no humanity, but I don't want to believe that. I know that you have children. I don't see how you could shush the mother of someone who's been waiting for almost a year to hear what the ruling of this body is on the murder of her child. How could you shush her when she's also dealing with the trauma having stemmed from the incident with her other children? How could you do that? I mean, I guess it is, I should listen to my head more than my desire for you to have some humanity, but can you please, somebody please visit you, something please visit you so you can have some humanity. Charlie Beck, if crime is down, I hope that your request for the city budget is also down. If crime is down by 30%, 29%, 40%, then so should your request of the LA City budget so we can use those dollars for the things that our community act.
Next speaker, please.
Gina Viola.
Officers harassing Eric Rivera's beautiful family it speaks to the culture of this department. This family has been disrespected since the day the LAPD stole their child from them. And I also have to echo the other sentiments. If crime is down, 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 the minute, Commissioner McLean Hill, thank you. Thank you for bringing to light what we have been saying for years in this room. Why all of a sudden is it up in Wilmington? Why all of a sudden do you need more police officers harassing family members, lighting a vigil? Get to know these family members. These are beautiful human beings. Beautiful human beings, as are many of the people who walk down the streets. But you'll never know that because the culture is broken. The culture is damaged and deeply rooted in white supremacy, and it is time to do something about it. You can roll your eyes. You can be tired of hearing those words. I'm tired of hearing those words. I'm tired of saying those words. But guess what? That's all I'm doing now. That's all I'm doing is fighting white supremacy, and this is the start. This is where it starts. You are the watchkeepers of white supremacy. Time to put a stop to it.
Helen Jones.
Valerie, I feel so sorry for you. I'm a mother of a murdered child, too. My son's name is John Horton that was murdered in 2009. And, yeah, make sure y'all tell Mark Romero I'm coming after him. And we coming after the rest of them. Chief Beck, you know what your department is made of. I was raised in Watts and raised up in L.A. Our community been tortured by your officers for years. You know this because you went after your own officers. You went up undercover to take down your own officers. So you know what type of officers you've been dealing with. I raised up with your officers when we couldn't even stand as teenagers in front of our yards, just talking. What y'all doing out here? Pulling up, jumping out on the cars on us, asking us what we doing out standing in front of our own homes. But guess what? They won't come to your community and do it. They won't come to now one of y'all communities and do it. Because guess what? When it come to y'all kids be in them matches up on them hills and them drug programs. See, they don't make it to the jailhouse like our kids behind some dope or a joint or doing something wrong. Y'all kids make it to them expensive places up in them hills. We're getting in them drug programs, being able to hide. But see, our kids can't do that. See how you killed and shot? Y'all know how you gonna shoot somebody 7 times and then run them down 2? Come on, y'all know what time it is. Y'all know that them officers are wrong. But guess what? Y'all gonna do everything y'all can to protect the integrity of your department, and you don't care about the kids. And guess what? Another thing I want to tell y'all, how y'all talking about y'all trying to get cool with our kids in classes. How the hell y'all gonna get cool with the kids in classes and y'all messing over their family members, messing over their parents? When they come home and talk to us, guess what? They know y'all done killed our kids, and then they supposed to go to school and act like ain't nothing ever happened? Hell no.
The next three speakers, please. Valerie Rivera, Hamed Khan, and Ivy.
Those are the last three in this?
The last three, and we do have one late card, sir.
We'll just put those late cards into public comment, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm just at a loss for words. Thank you, Cynthia, for your kind words and for recognizing what happened to us. And thank you, Mr. Smith, for reaching out to me also. It's been 10 long, hard, sad months, and so today's really important for me. I haven't heard anything for 10 months about my son. Mr. Soberov, I hope that the Spirit of God touches you, because I do want to have hope that you can be a good person. Beck, I know you're not a good person. And it's sad because I really wanted to put faith and hope in you as chief of police. But that's out the door. I just want the justice my son deserves. And talking about the harassment, I got my children here, 2 of my other boys here. And that day, we just went to a family barbecue at the park for Easter, celebrating Easter. And you all know I live in Victorville, a 2-hour drive. So before I jumped on the freeway, I told my kids, let's go by Eric's site real quick and go light some candles for him before we jump on the freeway. It was only going to be 10 minutes. I get out the car. Thank God my 12-year-old son stood in the car. He was like, Mama, do I have to get out? You know, I'm cold and I'm tired. And I told him, no, stay in the car. We're only going to be here for 10 minutes. I'm just going to light Eric's candles real quick, and then we're going to jump back on the freeway and head home. So I get out the car with my other boys. I go light Eric's candles. The manager at the apartments where Eric got killed at in front of, she's a sweetheart. She's always telling me, anytime you're here lighting Eric's candles, anytime you're here, you know, at Eric's site, if you can either use the restroom, if you need water, don't hesitate to come knock on my door, you know, anything. So, you know, she's always been a real sweetheart to me. So, you know, having to take a 2-hour drive, I had to use the restroom. So I go to her apartment. I start knocking on her door. I looked down the walkway and I seen a LAPD car parked right there on the street. So I was like, well, hold on. The daughter comes and answers the door. I tell the daughter, hold on one second. There's cops out there in the front and they're messing with my children. I need to go check on my children real quick. So I run out there. I then pull out my phone to document it all. As I walk out there, all my kids are lined up. All my kids are lined up. 2 of them are in handcuffs. My 14-year-old and my 16-year-old. 14 years old and 16-year-old. Handcuffed. Right, immediately handcuffed. They're over there pocket checking them, checking out all their pockets. One officer's already in the car, searching the car. I come out and I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why did you guys stop? Why are you harassing my children? I told him, one of the officers, I'm going Facebook Live with this. I need to document this. And he turned around and told me, oh, you don't need to do that because I got my body cam on. And he points at his body cam. I tell them straight up, I don't give a shit about your body cam. Because there's videos of my son being murdered by LAPD on dash cam and body cam, and I have yet to see that video yet. So I don't care about your body cam. I'm documenting this myself for mine's and my children's protection. He didn't like that at all. He did not like it. What turned into a 10-minute visit turned into a 22-minute harassment. 22 minutes of harassment, all because my son's best friend, who is like a son to me, he's been a part of the family. He comes and stays the night at my house on the weekends. My son goes and stays the night at his house on the weekends. I mean, he's like a son to me. All because he parked his car on the driveway of the apartments right where Eric got shot. He parked it right there on the driveway part. Honestly, those cops did a shitty job that day because they could have been good peace officers. And the best outcome that they could have done, and it's easy. It's so easy what they could have done. All they needed to do was pull up, say, hi, guys, how's it going? Is this your vehicle? Because it's illegally parked. Of course, my son's best friend's going to say, yes, it's his vehicle. And then tell him, well, can you please move it on the street? Because it's not supposed to be parked like that. And then go on their merry way. Because they seen we were having a little candlelit vigil. And I told them we just pulled up 2 minutes ago. I just went to go knock on the neighbor's door to use the restroom, and then we were going to head back home. But they weren't having it. They wanted to harass us. My son Justin was upset over it because he seen how upset I was seeing my children in handcuffs. For no reason, being pocket checked, acting like they're criminals, acting like they're in gangs. They're not in gangs. We're not even in Wilmington anymore. We moved the hell out of the hood. Even though Wilmington is still a big part of my heart, I love that city with all my heart because you know what? That city made me who I am today. And I'm a good person. I have a big heart. I have compassion. I care for people. I'm sincere. And to be harassed like that for no reason, they took like 10, 15 minutes to finally come and talk to me and tell me this is the reason why we stopped you guys, because the car was parked like that. And you all know there's a lot of shootings in the Wilmington right now. There's a lot of killings in Wilmington, which of course I know. I know it's been like that for years, many years. Since I was growing up, it's been like that. But what does that have to do with me being at a candlelit vigil for my son? Me having to light some candles real quick and getting on my merry way to come back home and relax and, you know, think about the great time that I just had that weekend with my family. It was uncalled for. You know, those cops could have done a better job. You know, I wish that they did. I wish that they were good cops instead of assholes, you know, thinking that they have a right to harass, you know, young children like that and treat us like we're criminals and, you know, embarrass us, humiliate us. That was hard. And they didn't care. They didn't care my kid just got murdered. They didn't care. You know, I just wish those cops would have done a better job. You know, at least give me some hope and faith that there are still some cops out there that are nice people, that can still treat people like human beings. And, you know, those two officers, they did a shitty job that day. And, you know, I hope, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen Eric's video yet. I hope you guys have, because we're here today to talk about Eric. You know, it's been 10 long months, 10 long months. You know, I want to hear something. I need to hear something. I'm going crazy. My patience is running so thin because, you know, all I want to do is celebrate his life for the rest of my life. I want to move past this. I want peace in my heart. I want peace for my children. I want my son to rest. He's not resting right now, knowing his mom's going through what she's going through right now. Knowing what his dad's going through right now. So I hope you guys have some compassion and you guys do what's right. And I hope that this day can, this part of my journey right now in life comes to an end real soon with the mourning. Because I don't want to mourn the rest of my life. I want to celebrate him. So, I hope you guys can side with me this time. Beck, I know you're never going to side with me because you side with them all the time. But I hope that one day you can side with somebody that deserves to be sided on. And that is actually me and Phil. So I'm looking forward to hearing about Eric's case today, so I can move on and take the next steps that I have to go do, because it's gonna be a couple of more. There's more processes that I have to go through. So I'm looking at another good year. So I want to move on from this and move towards Jackie Lacey now, because she's next, and she's just as evil as him. So I have to pray for her. So God bless you all.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hamid Khan, please.
I didn't hear who.
Hamid Khan, followed by Ivy.
Mr. Khan.
Like how many more times do we have to be reminded that an institution so grounded in slave patrol has to continue to draw blood, to justify its existence? If they don't kill, we might as well be dead, because the living are being forced to live a dead person's life. This is what we are seeing. This is what we are watching. Beck speaks about crime statistics. So let's look at the crime statistics for a second. From 2002 to 2009, and this is all reported, LAPD cooked the books to conceal crime and misclassified over 14,000 crime reports altered. From 2012 to 2013, over 1,000 misclassified crime reports. In October of 2015, the LA Times reported over 25,000 misclassification of crimes. In November of 2017, LAPD's own captain sued the LAPD for misclassification of crime. So when we hear about crime classification, you're not going to listen to anything as to what happened to all of that. What is the latest? What is going on? What about all of these misclassification of crimes? Because this is what they do to demonize and justify themselves to draw blood. And this can't continue. We always say it is flawed by design.
Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Ivy.
Ivy.
Violence appears where power is in jeopardy, and that's what I see here in this room, filled with civil servants that uphold the most violent police force in the country. Coercion and violence are the only mechanisms left to exert social control. There's no semblance of justice in here. As John Horton's mom said, there is no integrity. I mean, look at this medallion on the wall. It's starting to peel off, okay? Oh, wow. Get her. That represents the lack of faith Angelenos have in your ability to protect and serve. There's no reforming this institution. We need a mass campaign to divest from the LAPD immediately. When I leave this room, I try to figure out why I feel so nauseated all the time. And I just realized why. Thanks to what Adam had to say, it's because there's no moral authority here. It's been destroyed. And you filled the moral vacuum that you all feel within yourselves. You've turned to violence. That's what you've turned to. You turn to violence time and time again. You kill people's family members time and time again. So I don't even think it's worth acknowledging you all anymore. I'd like to take time to honor the resistance, the persistence of resistance of women of color in this room, particularly black women in this room, and all the women of color. I want to honor them today because they exist and thrive despite sexual harassment by the police, despite their violence. You all are a powerful light, and you shine through the cowardice of people like Charlie Beck. Valerie, you shine through, your strength shines through, and I want to honor you and respect you. I want to honor all of the mothers here, all of
Next speaker, please.
We have no other speakers on this item, sir.
Okay, let's move to public comments.
We're in public comment. We have 11 cards.
Okay.
We have Gina Viola, Philip Malik, and Adam Smith.
Say a few words for him today. Eric Rivera broke no laws, none whatsoever. He was walking down a city street, minding his own business. You cannot find this shooting in policy for that reason alone. He did nothing wrong. He was gunned and run down by the LAPD simply for walking down the street. It's shameful how you've silenced angry voices like Mr. Achilles who've come before you. The fact that I need to speak for him today because he cannot be inside this room. Mr. Achilles should be here today, not only to speak to you directly, but to support Eric's family, as he's been doing so outside these walls for 10 months now. Shame on you from removing him from this process, from removing anybody from this process. Everybody deserves to be here and have their voices heard. This won't stop us. This won't stop us from coming and speaking truth. In fact, what it will do is increase in numbers. It's what's happening. So keep taking us out. We're going to keep coming back in strength, in numbers. His truth, Eric's truth, truth in general, it will come out. I wanted to also address the comment you made about the body camera card, Chief Beck, on the incident that happened yesterday. It's interesting to me that you're able to cite it and use it when it corroborates your stories. However, when it doesn't, mysteriously it's being reviewed, it's being talked about, nothing can be said about it. And then it disappears. Where's Eric's footage? Where's Eric's footage for 10 months? Where is Waukesha Wilson's 22 minutes of missing video footage? Where is that footage? Yet now you have footage that shows apparently useful force, so.
So I just heard that you guys are teaching kids in school, and that's absurd, because if you ask a teacher, hey, what do you teach these kids, they would say freedom of speech and civil rights. But in actuality, the police should be there teaching them, hey, when we come along, your life's in danger. You will be killed. You point your cell phone at us, we'll kill you. You don't put your hands up and keep them up, we'll kill you. You reach for your pants because they're sagging, we'll kill you. You do anything and we'll kill you. That's what the police should tell the schools.
Mr. Smith.
I'm here today in solidarity with Eric's parents and to ask you all to do what you, as the civilian oversight of this police force, know you are supposed to do. Are you going to come back out here after closed session and tell Valerie and Philip what they already know, that officers murdered their son for no reason? That they made a fatal mistake and acted out of policy? Or are you going to come out here and tell them Eric deserved to die? There's no nuance. Either you believe these officers acted out of policy or you believe that Eric deserved to die. When you're in there today, I want you to really think about Eric. I want you to think about those 7 bullets that tore through his flesh. But those bullets didn't just steal Eric. I have a lot more to say. Those bullets stole his smile that his mom speaks about, his Kodak smile, stole a brother. And I know you all have kids. Can you imagine? Commissioner McLean Hill, Commissioner Goldsmith, can you imagine what bullets do to your innocent kids? When you're in there today, Mr. Sobroff, I want you to think of your grandkids and think of Philip. Eric was his only son. He's not going to have grandkids.
The next speaker, Michael Novick, followed by Paula Miner and Melina Abdullah.
Novick?
I want to go back to the Constitutional Rights Foundation. I've used their materials, teaching classes myself. I think that their blindness and your blindness go hand in hand. In their presentation, it talked about the fact that they saw what they were doing as promoting community policing. And so once again, I want to draw your attention to the fact that community policing, as described in Law and Order magazine, which is a journal of the policing industry, is described as the domestic equivalent of psychological operations in the military. Community policing is a part of the militarization of the police and the attempt by the police to carry out counterinsurgency operations. They define the people they deal with as either the population or the enemy, and they want to control their thinking. And so that fundamental reality of what the nature of policing is like in this society is what leads to the kinds of tragedies we're talking about today. And I think that's your responsibility as the people charged with overseeing this department to do something about it. I think that you have the opportunity, for example, to come out as a police commission in favor of the bills that have been introduced subsequent to the killing of Stephon Clark in Sacramento, to expose and open to the public view the history and record of police misconduct, and the opportunity to limit the use of police force. And those are 2 bills that you should consider immediately, and you should come out.
Next speaker, please.
Paula Miner, followed by Melina Abdullah.
I stand here too in support of Eric Rivera's family and the unbelievable way they have been treated during the last 10 months and especially during the last week. Today, in listening to the description of the program that you guys call Cops and Kids, it just brought to my attention the difference between that PR plan and the reality that this family exposes. That program is another way to spend money, another way for a nonprofit to get funded to make you all feel better in this flawed system. Again, you're trying to give police the responsibility for social problems for which they're not prepared to handle. And doing this as we continue to want our police to be our teachers, our social workers, our homeless advocates, what it envisions is what's called the classic police state. And the purpose of that police state is to oppress, control black, brown, and poor people. We know that. You know that. We see what's going on. As gentrification occurs all over LA, you want to do more and more controlling and oppress and removing. The fact that the program director could not and did not answer the commissioner's question when she said how many officers have participated in the program. She totally evaded that response. She told us how many kids. She told us it was one school. That shows in itself, again, the fallacy, again, the way LAPD in this system tries to tell us things that are just totally not true. It shows why our community continues to distrust, continues to hurt, continues to not want our children.
Next speaker, please.
Melina Abdullah, followed by John Avalos Rios.
Before we get to the item about Eric, I want to just make a comment about this body and about us, right? What I'm noticing is this kind of evolution that happens when we start to look at how police treat our people, right? Initially, when Black Lives Matter was born about 5 years ago, I can say for myself, I did think that policing was something that could be reformed. I believed in the myth of maybe there's some nice cops, right? And I'm political. I'm critical of the system, right? But I still believed that. But the more and more I engage, I realize that these are not people that surround us. These are uniforms that surround us. It doesn't matter what they do at home with their families. Their function is to keep us in check in order to preserve the oppressive system that we live under, right? That is their function. So there's no breaking through the badges, right? There's no, because I kept looking at how they treated you. And I said, at least when you said you were Eric Rivera's family, why didn't they stop then? Because they have no humanity. They are only uniforms, guns, and badges, right? But when we look up at this dais, at Sandra Figueroa Villa and Shane Murphy Goldsmith and Steve Soberoff and Matt Johnson and Cynthia McLean Hill, they're supposed to be representing us. They don't have guns and badges. But something is happening to your humanity. Shane, I know people who know you, who like you, who are your friends. What's happening to you? How can you not engage, right? What's happening? I know people who know you and like you, Steve. Right? I don't know why. But what's happened? Maybe you've been sitting here too long, right?
Next speaker, please.
John Avalos
Next
Rios,
speaker.
please.
Who's next?
John Avalos Rios.
Mr. Rios, sir. Next speaker, please. Your time is over. You can come back and comment at something else. Next speaker.
I don't wear my belt, so I have to put up my pants. Every time I go through the inspection, I have to take my belt off, so I just come with my baggy dickies. My name is John Avalos. I started coming here for Waukesha Wilson and the others, and today for Valerie and el papá del muchacho. Oh my God. I have a master's degree from Stanford in education. I lived in Sandra's area with a master's degree at Stanford, I stood in front of the Bank of America at Echo Park and Sunset with my baggy Dickies. I love the style. They're the Cholo style. I'm sorry. So I stood there in front of the Bank of America at that ATM with my baggy Dickies. I was in my 40s. I think I was 40. I've put on my tattoo for the first time. I don't know why I chose what the police don't like. Look what I chose to put at age 40. and one of those policemen in the brown cars, what are those narco cars? He saw me at the Bank of America at Echo Park and Sunset, and he went real fast. And he just stared at me. And he drove slower. And I tried to go to the ATM.
Sir, why don't you stand behind the podium, please, so we can hear you?
What an experience. That's horrible. What a beautiful video. With that video that you took, we can share it with all the Mecha students. Perfect, perfect. Please change your meetings all the time at one of the community centers, regularly, not here. Oh, it's horrible to come here. $12 for parking. How much money did they make today? They made some money today. No, those people need jobs.
Next speaker, please.
Victoria Stockton, followed by Valerie Rivera and Helen Jones.
Sorry Charlie Beck left before I could replay this video. This is what he told your commission on 8th of August.
The 800 block of Venice Boulevard, single-family residence. The reporting person identified an individual inside that he believed to be armed. The officers made initial entry in the residence, observed the individual seated in her chair with an AR-15 rifle. The individual ignored verbal commands to drop the rifle, stood up, pointed the rifle at one of the officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. The shooting was fatal. AR-15 was recovered at scene and booked into evidence. That concludes my update.
That was on August 8th, referring to a shooting that occurred in my home on August 4th. Mr. Silveroff, I want to give you another envelope. I filed another police complaint last night in regards to the police report, which is misstated as the day before, being prepared, and the incident happening the day before. The line item for the origination of the call is also false. I'm the one who made the call. If your officers had any inclination that he had a rifle sitting at the table, why in God's name did they follow me up the walkway, allow me to unlock the front door and follow me in? Is that not against police policy? I didn't know, so how in the hell did you know? And if you did know, why did you allow me to unlock the door and follow me in? Your officers in unison screamed one time, "Sir, drop the weapon," as he's turning to see behind him. Look at the autopsy report. The last time I was here, you booted me out because I got loud. There's a reason why people get loud. People like Beck, sorry he left, I'm sorry you have to hear this, are liars. They're covering up police murders. Second Amendment right was violated.
The final two speakers on this item, Valerie Rivera and Helen Jones.
Okay, so I said my piece with you all today. So I'm just going to take a minute to come and thank everybody that came to show up for us. I love and appreciate every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. Because if I didn't have your guys' support, I would be lost. I would be lost. You guys give me strength. So, thank you all. Rosa, thank you. And your beautiful daughters, thank you. Benny, thank you. They've also lost loved ones. There's many families here that have lost a loved one. And we're all beautiful people. We're all beautiful people. We don't deserve to suffer like this. Helen, thank you. You're welcome. So with that being said, I got my parking ticket. I don't know who I gotta give it to validate it, but I think I deserve to be validated. Yes, you do. So, thank you.
Helen Jones, please.
You know, we've been hearing about the law enforcement family for years. So if y'all the law enforcement, what the hell did that make us? If y'all family, well, we the outsiders? Because that's the way we get treated. Here it is. I lost my son in 2009. He got beat in his cell and got a suicide stage. So I know how the police lie. And I'm going after the sheriff department right today to get criminal charges. But see, I know where the real secrets lies at is with the coroner department. See, y'all not gonna tell, see, y'all got those coroners, those pathologists in y'all pockets. How I know? Because it happened to me, and I'm still fighting them today, and it's gonna come out. It's gonna come out. See, because that's what I know. All of y'all know that's standing up there. Y'all got the coroner department wrapped up around y'all finger. And you know what? They're not gonna tell you what really happened, what killed him first, and same thing they're doing to your baby, you tried to do to me. But see, the thing you couldn't get past me with, I know my son didn't kill himself. See, my baby got liver busted, kidney busted, pancreas busted, muscle busted, hit my baby so hard. You know, y'all know the story of John Horton. I know you know it. Y'all know it. With the police, Scannergate. I'm Scannergate. My son Case is Scannergate. Where the police forged scanners at their desk. It was all BS. See, but that's what y'all do. Y'all sit up here, plot behind our backs, and then you're going to make this mother wait 8 months. You made me wait 7 months. You still ain't told her the damn truth. Why y'all, you only got one person up there that's willing to say what's really going on, but we know by the time they get through with you, I'm hope they don't chop your head off. Because we know. But no matter what you do with them, still black. Skin color ain't going to change, and yours not either. Because you got it in, y'all see it all day.
We have no other comment cards for this item. We're now in closed session. We have 1 card for item number 5A1 and 6 cards for 5A2.
Okay, let's go 5A1.
And we have Michael Novick on 5A1.
Mr. Novick?
So 5A1 is the case of someone named Cruz who was shot. I don't know if he was killed by the LAPD. You have 1 sergeant, 3 police officer 3, 9 police officer 2, 3 police officer 1. That's 15, 16 officers involved in shooting someone. Week after week we come here. We hear in particular this week about Eric Rivera, but here's somebody else shot. 16 officers involved in that, 2 more officers involved with killing Eric Rivera. So you've got almost 20 officers this week alone. That played out over a year, that's 1,000 officers. That says you have a systemic problem. You have a systemic problem and you're not dealing with it. And it's your responsibility to deal with it, or if you don't, then the people will deal with it. But, you know, how can you come here week after week yourselves and listen to these cases and not understand that it's systemic, not understand that you're part of the system that's creating and maintaining and persisting in that fundamental problem? How can you listen to the things that people say here and keep those stone faces? I don't understand. So I don't know, you know, I don't know if anybody's here to speak for Mr. Cruz. I don't know if it's Mr. or Ms. Cruz, but I'll speak for that person. I think that the shooting of Cruz reflects a fundamental approach of policing that I said before. It's based on white supremacy. It's based on racial profiling. It's based on treating the people of this city as targets, as an enemy, particularly the black and brown and poor people of this city. And until you deal with that fundamental systemic problem, you're part of that fundamental systemic problem. You can close your eyes or cast your eyes down, but you're either part of the problem or part of the solution.
And the first three speakers on item 5A2 are Mr. Novick, Philip Malik, and Paula Miner.
This is 5A2.
5A2.
And how many speakers do you have?
6.
Okay. Novick?
I have nothing to add really to what was said about Eric. I think that, his death is a tragedy. His blood is on the hands of the LA Police Department. I just want to point out something here. You have a case number 1 here on your 5A1 was officers involved shooting number 27 in 2017. The killing of Eric Rivera, case number 2 here, you have this officer involved shooting number 42. That means you had 14 other people shot by the LAPD between the first case you're looking at today and the second one. So I don't know when you're going to get to those other 14 people, but I think that you kept this family waiting for 10 months. You're keeping other families waiting for over a year, and most of the cases that you deal with are a year behind. So it's you have to change the system that creates these killings. You have to.
Philip Malik.
I'm Eric Rivera's father. So what's in policy? That's what we're finding out today. Is getting out of your police vehicle, leaving it in drive in policy? Is after you leave your vehicle and drive and you get out and you hurt yourself with your own car? Is that in your policy? After hurting yourself with your own car, you think you got shot? Is that in your policy? After thinking you got shot because you left your car in drive, and you launch a runaway vehicle, is that in policy, having a runaway vehicle? When you launch a car, hurt yourself with your car, and then you draw down guns on someone and give them the choice of getting out of the way of the launched runaway vehicle or getting shot, is that in policy? Hey, is shooting some kid 7 times, that's a 20-year-old, 130-pound kid, is that in policy? After you just made 4 mistakes? After you shoot a kid 7 times, leave your car and drive, launch a runaway vehicle at him, hurt your own arm, shoot him 7 times, and then run him over with your police vehicle, is that in policy? Is it in policy to run over a kid and mangle his body, break his leg? Is that in policy? Is it in policy to leave him there for 30, 40 minutes before you even check on him? Is that policy?
Next speaker, please.
Paula Miner.
I cannot talk about what is in policy any better than Eric's family, especially Eric's dad. I've been coming before this commission talking about officer-involved shootings, standing up for families who have had victims of officer-involved shootings. And watching this commission say, whatever happens is okay. You know, if you shoot them in the back, it's okay. If they're mentally challenged, it's okay. If they're unarmed, it's okay. If it's a questionable situation, it's okay. I hope that as public opinion, as you all know, is changing, that perhaps the opinions of this commission will begin to change. I'm going to use the rest of my time just to allow us to think about what Eric's father just said, what he said about someone making the decision. Do I move from a moving car? Do I follow the officer's command to stop or I'll shoot you? What do I do in that situation? What would you do if the car is coming towards you and someone's threatening to shoot you? Think about that. We all need to think about that. Say his name, Eric Rivera. Say his name, Eric Rivera.
The next three speakers, Melina Abdullah, Adam Smith, and Gina Viola.
Are these the last three speakers?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So I don't know what you all are going to decide in that back room. When I talked to Sister Valerie, you know, I expressed to her and I expressed to everybody that I talked with about Eric that I don't know how anybody could decide that his murder is in policy. I don't know. But you all always surprise us. So I can't give Sister Valerie hope, right? I can't give the families hope. I can't say, well, maybe they'll side with the people, because you haven't. There's only a few times when we get an out of policy ruling. I think this is like a clear-cut one, but I don't know. What I do know is no matter what, we're together. No matter what, we're not going to let this rest. No matter what, we are here for Eric, and we're always here for Waukesha, and we're here for John Horton, and we're here for your son, and we're going to be here. And we're going to stand together as a community and be here. And we're going to struggle this. They talked about the system being flawed. This system isn't flawed. This system was designed to produce these outcomes. It was designed to produce these outcomes. And so it's up to us to transform the system, to summon our own power, to summon Eric's spirit and Waukesha's spirit and all of those spirits that are here and crying out to work through us, because we will win. And we don't always know how, but we will. And so we will keep saying his name, Eric Rivera. Say his name. Eric Rivera. Say his name. Eric Rivera. Say his name. Eric Rivera. Ashe.
Adam Smith.
I've gotten to know the family of Eric over the last few months, and it's still, like, in all honesty, as a white person with white kids in a relatively under-policed neighborhood, as all neighborhoods should be, it's as much as I try to empathize with them, I don't have that, and I worry that that you all don't either, coming from different places of privilege. I know that Commissioner Goldsmith grew up in a working class background on the West Side, but that's still, it doesn't, it's not so much a neighborhood where every kid that's walking down the street is going to be policed, is going to be in a gang, or the first thought is going to be that the kid's in a gang. And I know you're a mother. I know, these officers' actions deliberately said that Eric's life doesn't matter, that it didn't matter. And you all need to show the city that it did.
And the final speaker, Gina Viola.
I started coming to these meetings to fight white supremacy because I recognize that you are, in fact, the watchdog of white supremacy. But during this fight, something very unexpected happened for me personally, as I've gotten to know the family members of people slain by law enforcement in this city. These are some of the most courageous, resilient, beautiful people I've ever known. Eric Rivera has a mother, has a father, has brothers. You stole Eric from this beautiful family. And I say you because every time you find these killings in policy, you become complicit in these killings. Right. You allow officers to gun down civilians on the street. How many civil suits have been settled for officers who were found to be in policy by you? No amount of taxpayer money will ever heal this family. The beautiful Rivera family. They deserve justice. Really what they deserve is to still have Eric alive and with them. But the LAPD stole Eric from them. If you find these officers to be in policy today, you will be stealing him too. Eric Rivera, say his name.
Eric Rivera.
Say his name.
Eric Rivera.
Say his name.
Eric Rivera.
We have no other comment cards, sir. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 5A1 and 5A2 in accordance with Government Code 54957.
Are we good to go?
The Board of Police Commissioners?
Is Channel 35 or whatever, is that on? Is that all set?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
The Board of Police Commissioners has concluded its work at closed session. We are back in open session. The Executive Director will report out.
Mr. T. Fank.
Yes, sir. As to item 5A1 OIS 027-17. Tactical debrief, 2 police officer 3s, 5 police officer 2s, 1 police officer 1. Unanimous vote. Administrative disapproval, 1 sergeant 1, 1 police officer 2, unanimous decision. As to drawing, exhibiting, in policy, 1 sergeant 1, 1 police officer 3, 6 police officer 2s, 1 police officer 1, unanimous. Less lethal use of force, in policy, 1 police officer 3, 2 police officer 2, unanimous. Lethal use of force, in policy, 1 police officer 3, 2 police officer 2, 1 police officer 1, unanimous. As to OIS 042-17, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, drawing, exhibiting, in policy, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, lethal use of force, in policy, 1 police officer 3, 1 police officer 2, all votes unanimous, 5-0. That concludes the report, sir.
The redacted, what will be released now?
There'll be 2 reports released on both of these cases. As to 5A2, the OIS involving Mr. Rivera, by the end of the day, the redacted chief's report should be available in our office. And by the end of the day, hopefully, the Inspector General will have posted on the website their abridged summary, which is also going to be available again via the website.
So you read a lot of numbers.
Go ahead.
Can you explain what just happened? Because we don't understand what you're talking about.
Is there a motion to adjourn, sir?
Yeah. We have a motion to adjourn?
I'll be happy to explain.
Okay.
Everything is in policy for Eric Rivera to stop the draw and the killing.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
And it's all unanimous?
Yes, ma'am.
5-0. Yeah. Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn, Mr. President?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
This is Koreatown. My name is Kwang Bae Kim. You watch LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel.
Hey, welcome to NASA Launchpad. I'm your host, Justin Tully. You know, NASA's come to understand that the only way to really comprehend the workings of our planet